not going to throw away the feeling of greatness.
I know.
Holy shit, I'd be crazy.
I know. You've never, that's amazing. You've never, like other guys going to slumps, you've never slumped.
Never won in my life.
Yeah.
Not for hitting the ball.
No.
Never.
It's just been simple with you. You've never gotten caught up in swing thoughts?
No. I've always hit it good. I believed in my way. Game is just changing so much. And not for the better.
Moe Norman once looked at 6 of golf's greatest legends and called them cheaters, not because they broke the rules, but because they cheated the truth of the golf swing itself. The man who Tiger Woods said was one of only 2 players to ever truly own his swing, spent his life proving that most of professional golf was built on lies. And the names he called out will shock you. I am James, and this is Golf Relived. How can you call Jack Nicklaus a cheater and not be completely mad? How can you look at Arnold Palmer's miracle shots and see failure instead of heroism? The answer lies in understanding that Moe Norman didn't see golf the way normal people do. To him, the golf course wasn't a stage for drama or a place to show emotion. It was a laboratory, a place where geometry and physics were the only truth. And if you needed anything else to make your swing work, you were lying to the ball. By the way, if you're intrigued by how Moe's mind worked and want to see where this goes, use the hype feature and give this video some hype. It really helps as we break down the 6 names Moe couldn't respect. Moe Norman built his entire philosophy around something he called the single plane swing. Most golfers use what's known as a 2-plane swing. You take the club back on a steep angle, then you have to drop it onto a flatter plane on the way down to hit the ball. That transition requires perfect timing. It requires your hands and eyes to work together at exactly the right moment. And Moe believed that need for timing was mathematically dishonest. It introduced variables that shouldn't exist. Every time you swing, you're gambling that your body will execute that transition perfectly. And gambling, to Moe, was the opposite of science. He stood with his feet incredibly wide. His arms were rigid and extended away from his body. He gripped the club in his palms, not his fingers. It looked strange. It looked wrong to traditionalists. But Sam Snead eventually called it the best grip in golf. By setting up this way, Moe created a straight line from his shoulders through his arms to the club. That line never changed. There was no transition, no timing, no compensation, just geometry. The club traveled on a single plane from start to finish. That meant the same impact position every single time. Not most of the time, every time. Engineers from Titleist tested him later in his career and discovered something remarkable. Moe Norman produced 0 side spin. The ball flew perfectly straight because the club delivered it on a purely vertical axis. No curve, no deviation, just mathematical certainty. To Moe, this was the only honest way to play. Any swing that created side spin was just a managed mistake, a cheat. And when he looked at the greatest players in history, he saw that mistake everywhere. He saw timing. He saw compensation. He saw variables that turned golf into guesswork instead of science. Before we get to the names, you need to understand what Moe was measuring them against. He wasn't comparing trophies or money or fame. He was comparing mechanics. He believed that if your swing needed you to make adjustments during the motion, it was already broken. If you needed to feel your way through a shot, you didn't understand the science. If you relied on instinct or emotion or talent, you were hiding from the truth. The truth was simple. The club should return to the same position every single time. The ball should fly the same way every single time. And if it didn't, you were renting a swing, not owning one. Tiger Woods and Lee Trevino both said Moe was the best ball striker they'd ever seen. But respect from legends didn't change Moe's view. He still saw their swings as flawed, and he wasn't afraid to say it. Number 6, Chichi Rodriguez. Golf fans loved Chichi. He was the entertainer, the showman. Every time he made a birdie, he'd pull out his imaginary sword and do a little dance. The crowd would roar. The cameras would love it. But Moe Norman hated every second of it. To Moe, Chichi was turning a laboratory into a circus. The golf course demanded silence and focus. It required you to think only about the club, the ball, and the target. Bringing personality into the equation was offensive. Moe believed that if you had a truly stable swing, you wouldn't need the cheers. You wouldn't need to perform. The ball only responds to physics, not to charm. Chichi's sword dance was a distraction, and Moe saw it as proof that Chichi was hiding something. If your mechanics were solid, why would you need to entertain? Moe argued that showmanship works as a cushion. When you make the crowd laugh, they forgive your mistakes. When you turn yourself into a character, people stop judging your swing. They judge your personality instead. For Moe, who lived on the autism spectrum and struggled with social interaction, this was incomprehensible. He couldn't understand why anyone would care more about applause than about the honesty of impact. Chi-Chi's theatrics felt like a betrayal of what golf was supposed to be. A laboratory doesn't have an audience, and if you need an audience, you're not doing science. Number 5, Arnold Palmer. Palmer is perhaps the most beloved figure in golf history. He played with aggression and heart. He'd hit it into the trees, then pull off some miraculous recovery shot that no one else would even attempt. Fans called it heroic. Moe Norman called it a confession. His logic was brutal. Why was the ball in the trees to begin with? If your swing was honest, it wouldn't put you in trouble. And if you're constantly needing to scramble, you never owned your mechanics in the first place. Palmer's game was built on the gamble. Moe's was built on the guarantee. Every time Palmer hit a miracle shot from the rough or behind a tree, the commentators would lose their minds. But Moe saw something different. He saw a man who broke a promise to the ball. The swing lied, and now Palmer had to fix it with athleticism and instinct. That's not mastery, that's damage control. Moe believed that recovery golf was just good marketing. It sold tickets. It made for great television, but it hid the truth. The truth was that Palmer's swing was chaotic. It relied on timing and feel and raw physical talent. And when those things were working, Palmer looked like a god. But when they weren't, he was in the woods. Moe didn't want to rely on whether his body felt good that day. He wanted a system that worked the same way every single time. Palmer's heroics were thrilling, but in Moe's world, thrills were just evidence of instability. Number 4, Jack Nicklaus. If Palmer cheated through chaos, Jack Nicklaus cheated through management. Nicklaus is widely considered the greatest champion the sport has ever seen. 18 major championships, countless records, and he built it all on his ability to shape the ball. Nicklaus could fade it or draw it depending on what the hole required. He'd look at the layout of the course and decide which curve would give him the best angle. Then he'd execute it. Fans and commentators saw this as genius. Moe Norman saw it as a band-aid on a broken swing. His reasoning was simple. If your swing was perfect, the ball would fly straight. If you need to curve it, that means your mechanics are flawed, and you're fixing the problem in mid-air. Moe famously said that Jack had the trophies, but he had the geometry. That line captures everything. Nicklaus managed his swing. Moe solved his. Shot shaping requires you to adjust the angle of the club face relative to your swing path. It's a complex calculation that happens in milliseconds. And to Moe, that complexity was proof of inefficiency. Why introduce variables when you could eliminate them? Nicklaus was brilliant at managing those variables, but management isn't the same as elimination. Nicklaus compensated for moving parts and timing issues that Moe had already removed. And in Moe's rigid framework, compensation was just another word for dishonesty. The ball should go where the geometry says it will go. If you're steering it or shaping it, you're lying to yourself about the quality of your mechanics. Number 3, Lee Trevino. This one hurts a bit because Trevino actually respected Moe. He once said he'd never seen anyone strike a golf ball like Moe Norman. High praise from a legend. But Moe still couldn't accept Trevino's method. Trevino was a player of pure feel. He played with instinct and improvisation. His swing was unconventional. He hit a controlled fade on almost every shot, but he was constantly adjusting based on the wind, the lie, his intuition. He'd feel his way through every round. And Moe hated that. Moe's standard for mastery was mechanical certainty, the same result every time, without needing to think, or feel, or adjust. Trevino's genius came from his ability to read situations and adapt on the fly. But to Moe, that adaptability was just a polite word for instability. He believed that true mastery required a system that removed the human element completely. If you need to feel the shot, your swing isn't scientific. It's guesswork. Even though Trevino praised Moe's ball striking, Moe saw Trevino's style as a betrayal of what golf should be. Trevino was one of the most gifted players ever, but Moe argued that his method only worked because of that gift. A normal person couldn't replicate it. It wasn't a system. It was just talent managing chaos in real time. And in Moe's world, if a swing requires feel to function, it's a swing you can't trust. The mathematics should be the same whether you're having a good day or a bad day. Trevino's brilliance was undeniable, but it was built on variables that Moe had spent his entire life trying to eliminate. Number 2, Sam Snead. This one cuts the deepest because Sam Snead was Moe Norman's hero. Moe worshipped Snead's swing. He thought it was beautiful. So when Snead gave Moe a tip at the 1957 Masters, Moe treated it like gospel. The tip was about his long iron stroke. Moe took it seriously, too seriously. He went to the range and practiced pressed that tip with obsessive focus. He hit balls until his hands were raw. Then he kept hitting. His hands started bleeding. He couldn't hold the club anymore. He had to withdraw from the tournament. But the betrayal went deeper than that one incident. Snead's public image was built on the idea that he was a natural athlete. Effortless grace, fluid motion. The media loved to talk about how easy Snead made it look. And Moe despised that narrative. Because Moe had practiced in total isolation in the harsh Canadian winter. He'd hit millions of balls until his hands bled. He knew the price of mastery. And he knew that Snead's swing wasn't effortless. It was the result of brutal, agonizing work. But Snead let people believe it was natural. To Moe, that was the ultimate fraud. Calling greatness natural erased the work. It made people think that talent was something you were born with, instead of something you earned through angles and lines. Moe believed Snead was pretending the labor didn't exist, and that pretense was an insult to everyone who'd ever bled for their craft. The natural narrative was a marketing story, a lie sold to the public to make Snead seem like a gift from the gods. But Moe knew better. He knew that greatness came from solitary, painful repetition. And by branding himself as natural, Snead was cheating everyone who looked up to him. He was saying that work didn't matter, that it was all just talent. And to Moe, who defined himself through his work, that was unforgivable. Number 1, George Knudson. Knudson was Canada's other great ball striker. Some people said he was Moe's equal, but Moe never accepted that. Not because Knudson couldn't hit the ball. He could, beautifully. But Knudson had a weakness. He was a terrible putter. Everyone knew it. And Moe saw that weakness as proof that Knudson was fundamentally dishonest. Moe's philosophy demanded uniform excellence across every part of the game. You couldn't hide a hole in your mechanics behind one great skill. Knudson could strike the ball as well as anyone, but he couldn't putt. And Moe famously warned people not to talk to Knudson about putting. It was a direct accusation. Knudson was papering over a flaw. The tension between them came to a head during a practice session. Moe proposed a bet. They'd try to hit the flagstick from the fairway. Moe went first. He hit the flagstick. Then he did it again. Then he did it a third time. 3 shots in a row, all hitting the pin. Total control. Absolute precision. Knudson couldn't match it. And more than that, he couldn't handle it. He was frustrated, embarrassed. He picked up his ball and walked off the course. To Moe, that was the ultimate admission. Knutson's ball striking was elite, but it was a lie because it didn't extend to the rest of his game. You can't be a master if you're only good at part of the equation. Moe believed that honesty in golf required complete command of the mechanics. Being excellent at one thing while being weak at another was professional evasion. It was hiding. And hiding, to Moe, was just another form of cheating. So what does all of this mean? 6 legends. 6 different ways of cheating the geometry. Chi-Chi turned the lab into a stage. Palmer built his legacy on scrambling from chaos. Nicklaus managed a flawed swing with brilliance. Trevino relied on feel instead of science. Snead pretended his greatness was natural, and Knudson hid behind his ball striking while ignoring his weakness. Moe's critique exposes something uncomfortable about professional golf. Most of the sport is built on romantic stories, the miracle recovery, the natural talent, the heroic struggle, the dramatic finish. But Moe didn't buy any of it. He saw those stories as marketing, as ways to hide the fact that most swings are unstable, most methods are unrepeatable, and most success is just talented people managing their mistakes better than anyone else. The game sells emotion and narrative. It sells the idea that golf is about heart and courage. But to Moe, that was all packaging designed to obscure mechanical failure. Moe was mocked for his eccentricities. He was bullied by the establishment. People thought he was strange, awkward, different. But in his later years, the recognition came. Tiger Woods said that only Moe and Ben Hogan truly owned their swings. That's validation from the greatest player of a generation. It proves Moe's core belief. Most professionals are renting a movement. They're borrowing from timing and feel and athleticism. And when those things fade, so does their game. But Moe's single-plane swing was immune to that decay. It was geometry, and geometry doesn't age. Was Moe right? That depends on what you truly value. If you value trophies and majors and fame, then the 6 legends he criticized are untouchable. They won everything. They changed the sport. They're immortal. They're in the history books forever. But if you value mechanical truth, if you care about a swing that works the same way every single time, without needing miracles or management or feel, then Moe's critique holds weight. He wasn't being cruel. He was being forensic. He was pointing out that the emperors of golf were wearing clothes made of romance and talent, fabrics that Moe, through blood and geometry, had proven didn't actually exist. The golf course, in Moe's mind, didn't care about your story. It didn't care about your personality, or your heroics, or your natural gifts. It only cared about whether the club returned to the same position. And by that standard, the legends were all cheating. Moe Norman's legacy isn't about wins, or money, or fame. It's about the feeling of greatness. That's what he called it. A state where you're no longer guessing or managing. You're just executing physics. The ball goes where the geometry says it will, every single time. And while the 6 golfers he named will always have more trophies, they'll also always represent, in Moe's view, the men who refuse to pay the full price. The price of owning the swing, not renting it, not managing it, owning it. That's the standard Moe set. And it's a standard that makes legends look like liars. Whether that's fair or not is up to you. But it's hard to argue with zero sidespin. If you found this breakdown fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe to Golf Relived for more deep dives into the stories and characters that shaped the game. Drop a comment and let me know if you think Moe was a genius or just too extreme. Thanks for watching.